Welcome to our August science call. I'm really excited for this one. It's been a while since I did a deep dive on CBG. We will have time for a Q&A at the end. And Cannabis Institute students, remember that at the end of this call, we are going to hang out and have our networking session. So please stick around. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about these 5 main things. What is CBG? What do the people say it helps? Because we're at this really cool space with CBG where the people know way more than science. What does the research say that it helps? How to think about dosing with CBG and where to get quality sources of CBG, both flower and oils in the States and Canada. Go us up here. My name's Andrea Maharg. I've been teaching for a very, very long time. And in 2016, cannabis saved my life and I couldn't figure out how to make it work. So I trained at the Cannabis Institute. And since then, since 2018, I've been out here on my own as Reveal Cannabis and also as part of the Cannabis Institute on this mission to make sure everybody knows cannabis is healthy and amazing. And I'm going to brag because Corinne tells me I need to brag about this more. I got to teach doctors. I got to write the curriculum that Vera Heal uses to train their own physicians so that they understand how cannabis works when they're offering medical recommendations in the States. So I really like to get nerdy on this plant. And like I said, I'm the program director at the Cannabis Institute. What is the Cannabis Institute? We teach passionate cannabis advocates to go out there and talk to the world about this plant. Hands up if you're a TCI student. We give you everything that you need to get out in the world and start talking and teaching about this plant within 3 to 6 months. That's our goal, is that you're out there in the world doing the thing, and we try to give you everything that you need for that. And our students do loads of things. They speak on stages, they write books, they hand their books to science greats in the industry. They work with doctors, they run workshops, retreats, they create content online. They do so much. So if that interests you, our fall cohort is going to be opening up soon, and we hope to see you there. All right, let's dive in to what is CBG. Okay, I'm going to get confusing right off the bat here because this presentation is all about CBG, but we're really talking about right here at the very beginning, when we're talking about the beginning of the plant, CBGA. So CBGA is the cannabinoid, the phytocannabinoid, the plant-based cannabinoid that grows first on the plant. So that's the initial cannabinoid that shows up, is CBGA. And as the plant matures, it changes through some enzymes that are happening in the plant into THCA or CBDA. And when you heat those up, they become THC or CBD. And when you heat up CBGA, it becomes CBG. So today we're going to be talking a lot about CBG, not a lot about CBGA. And I know this all sounds like alphabet soup at the beginning, but there is some cool stuff that I want to talk to you about later on. So I really want to set you up that this is kind of like, they call it the mother of all cannabinoids because literally the other cannabinoids are synthesized through processes out of CBG. And yeah, I already said all of this. Awesome. And we can heat it up to make CBGA into CBG. So how does it work? Like the vast majority of cannabinoids, it interacts with our endocannabinoid system. And this is important. If this is your first time hearing about the endocannabinoid system, it's the most important system in our body that very few people know about. And its job is to regulate all of our other systems and bring them back into a state of regulation or homeostasis. And you're going to see, as we talk about some specific conditions coming up tonight, how cool it is the way that CBG specifically does this, how it tells other receptors and channels like, hey, calm down, we're not doing that today. And that provides people with relief. You can see here like a mock-up of the endocannabinoid system. And what's important about this diagram for you, if you're new to it again, is that the endocannabinoid system exists in cells literally all over our body. We have a whole bunch in our brain and central nervous system, a whole bunch in our gut, but they are also in our muscle tissue. They're in our skin. They're in our bones. Endocannabinoid signaling is happening everywhere. And that is why cannabis works for so many different conditions, because the cannabis molecules can like go and activate targets where they're needed. Okay. So CBG, yeah, for sure, works with our endocannabinoid system. Although, interestingly, it doesn't bind to CB1 or CB2 super well. That's not the place it wants to hang out the most. It does, interestingly, bind to a serotonin receptor. That's going to be important later on when we're talking about its effect on mood. That's why. That's one of the reasons why. It also importantly blocks our natural bliss molecule. It's called anandamide. It's the thing that makes us feel really happy. It's one of the molecules that makes us feel really happy. It's the molecule that's actually responsible for the runner's high. It wasn't endorphins after all, it was anandamide. And we produce anandamide as we go about our day, and then it gets again, and it doesn't make us feel quite as happy anymore. CBG blocks that process from happening. So your natural bliss molecule, anandamide, once you produce it, sticks around longer in your brain, helping you feel better. And this is what I think is the coolest part about CBG. We call it a promiscuous molecule. And if you're one of the Cannabis Institute students, you know that we know a lot about CBD being a very promiscuous molecule. And, you know, in adult world, that means that you're like, you can go and interact with multiple partners. And that's the exact same thing of what a promiscuous molecule means in our body. Because CBG is uniquely like bendy and flexible, it can activate a whole bunch of different targets, not just CB1 and CB2, not just the serotonin receptor. It can interact with different channels, different receptors all over the place. And coolly enough, some of these places where it can target are unique to CBG. So only CBG out of the cannabinoids that we know of so far do these kinds of things. Okay, if you're wondering like, hey, this sounds really cool, like why don't I know about it? That comes back to what we talked about earlier, which is that CBG, as it grows, as the cannabis plant matures, it slowly gets changed into other cannabinoids. It gets changed into THCA and CBDA and CBGVA, all the things. And so for a long time, we didn't have really a way to access it unless you were always harvesting your plants much before they're actually ready, which means like lower harvest and a whole bunch of things. But over the past several years, and it feels like it's really ramping up, the availability of CBG and breeders who are breeding specifically for CBG. They're doing things within their breeding programs to ensure that more of the CBGA stays in the plant till maturity, less of it converts to THCA and CBDA, et cetera, so that when you harvest that plant at full maturity, it's rich in CBGA. And so that's new. That's why we're hearing about it more. That's why we're learning about it more. This is not one of those cannabinoids that's synthesized through CBD, like acid washing. This has been here forever and was likely much, much more present in earlier historic strains of cannabis. And we've probably bred this one down a little bit just like we had with CBD. All right. Remember I told you off the top that we're going to talk about what do the people say? When I first taught my CBG lesson like several years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, the thing that really struck me was that the literature said pain at the time, and people were telling me that it was really helping with mood. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And that still remains. People talk to me, and I hear about it from students at the Cannabis Institute, my own clients through Reveal, et cetera, that this helps with things like gut issues, IBD, et cetera, helps with mood, and it helps with pain. So if you're struggling with one of these issues or you know someone who is, even if the research that I show doesn't present to you strong findings, I still encourage you to try it because so many people, the people are speaking, science hasn't caught up. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to show you a screenshot from our favorite place in the whole world. It's called Cannabis. If you are a nerd and you want to know what's actually happening in the state of science, Cannabis is the place to be. Cannabis Institute students, remember that you get a discount on this product. So This is what I screenshotted yesterday. So we do have some research on CBG, right? 146 studies that are looking at it, very few actual studies on humans like we'll talk about. But yeah, we have some research here. It's just starting out. If you are going to compare it to what we have on THC, significantly more, right? We're at almost 2,000 primary studies just on THC in the Cannabis database, and then CBD 2,500. So when we talk about what we're going to talk about today, know that this is really, really new science that's being done right now. And most of this is still being done on animal models and in petri dishes. This is not research for the most part that's being done on humans. I will highlight a couple of studies that have been done on humans, but I just want you to know that up front, right? And I think that's actually really cool because we did not have any science on why CBD or THC worked for so many things for freaking millennia. Took modern science to catch up with the cannabis plant. And that is what seems to me to be happening right now, is that patients and consumers are saying, hey, CBG works for this and it helps me with this, et cetera, et cetera. And science is trying to like, oh shit, okay, let's catch up here. So my point here is to like honor your inner intuition with CBG, because as you'll see in a little bit, actually, it's not the same for everyone. So try it and see what you think. Okay. What does Cannabis say that we have clinical evidence for? Stress, anxiety, panic disorders, acute and chronic pain, cancer. We're going to dive into some of these in a little bit more detail. Epilepsy and some neurodegenerative disorders. So that's what we have, like, hey, we've tried this with humans. We think that this can be beneficial. I'll just go back for these conditions right here. We have some clinical evidence for it. Cannabis also notes that there is evidence supporting the use of CBG as an antidepressant, an anti-inflammatory, and antiviral, particularly in the case against SARS. It's got some, because of where we have endocannabinoid systems in our bladder, it has some really interesting applications for people who struggle with bladder issues. And it also helps with intraocular eye pressure, which we know THC does as well. But CBG is not impairing at all. And lots of people can't tolerate THC for that reason. Okay, let's take a look at some of these things that CBG can work for, and I'll just dive into a little bit on each one. So the way CBG is working in our body is through the endocannabinoid system. When your brain is processing pain, when it's like, holy crap, my back is really sore, whatever it is, your endocannabinoid system, when it's activated by CBG molecule, will tell that that noise basically like, shh, and it's just not going to continue along the pathway. So CBG isn't removing the source of the pain here. It is preventing you from being aware of the pain because those signals are blocked. And we're going to talk about an animal study here, mostly because this quote at the end of it was surprising to me. I don't usually see, when I'm looking at, cannabis research, I don't usually see them being like, yo, guys, check this out. They said, this is a study on rats. They said, our study provides robust evidence that CBG exerts potent pain blocking effects across acute, inflammatory, and neuropathic pain models. And that's rare for one drug, for lack of a better word, to be able to work for several different types of pain. And CBG does seem to help with several different types. Okay, anxiety, stress, and mood. This makes a lot of sense when we think about the fact that it is blocking our bliss molecule from being eaten up by enzymes and, not working anymore. And it's attaching to one of our serotonin receptors. This is a human study, and it was the gold standard, double-blind placebo trial. People were given 20 milligrams of CBG in an oil infusion. And then they were asked to rate their anxiety, their stress, and their mood afterwards. And they had significant reductions in anxiety and stress. And what the researchers noted was that it was the physical manifestations of anxiety and stress that were really reduced. People didn't feel their racing heart rate. They didn't feel all sweaty or clammy. It was their actual nervous system was chilling out a little bit because of CBD. Right. Okay, certain types of cancer, and this is important. If you're ever doing research on cannabis and cancer, it's a really tricky conversation because some cannabinoids are known to be great for certain types of cancers, and some cannabinoids in some literature shows that it actually exacerbates it and can make it worse. The cannabis cancer connection, ugh, I'll have to look after. I think that's what the book is called, is excellent if you're looking at that. My point is here, we know that cannabis is great for cancer, but we have to be kind of picky and selective. So when people are diagnosed or struggling with colorectal cancer, it is the number one cannabinoid that's recommended by people who know about this thing for two reasons. Because against colorectal cancer specifically, CBG will make the cancer cells kill themselves. It's called apoptotic. I forget, I can't say it. It makes them murder themselves, basically, which is awesome. And it's anti-proliferative, which means that it won't let the cancer cells continue to multiply and multiply. It's also been shown to help with glioblastoma, which is a type of brain cancer. It specifically, and this is cool again, targets therapy-resistant glioblastoma stem cells, which are the things that are making the tumors come back. And this is interesting because other cannabinoids are not shown to do this thing here. And we see benefits potentially coming down the line. Again, in real life world, yes, we see these. In science world, we're trying to catch up: prostate, breast, and pancreatic cancers. Okay, inflammation is a big one. This is where a lot of the gut health stuff comes from. CBG itself blocks inflammatory enzymes and regulates the immune response in conditions like IBD. This is again what's happening because our endocannabinoid system is so cool. Its whole job is to regulate things. So if you're having an overactive immune response, the ECS is kind of stepping in once it's got CBG engaged into the targets. It's stepping in and saying, no, like, we're not going to have this. We're not going to have you continue to create this inflammation response. We're going to back it back down to normal. I just think it's so neat how it's working to like, oh, let's bring stuff back into balance. There was a study just done earlier this year on rheumatoid arthritis. And they noted at the beginning of the study that current treatments for rheumatoid arthritis are really costly and they have a lot of side effects. And I was like, oh, that's like everything, right? Like, most conditions that we're treating with pharmaceutical meds, that's expensive and there's side effects. And that is one of the coolest things about what they found. They were seeing how it was going to work with neutrophil activity, which is something specific. Well, it's something in rheumatoid arthritis. And it was able to reduce inflammation capacity. So like how much inflammation was happening by up to 98%. This, again, is an animal model. This was not in humans, but that's an incredible amount of reduction in inflammation. And it was able to specifically target these neutrophil created processes that are happening in rheumatoid arthritis. So again, because of this molecule's promiscuity and flexibility and its ability to be everywhere in our system, not just our endocannabinoid system, it's doing some good in there and no side effects and relatively inexpensive. All right, neuroprotection. I think we touched on this just off the top. It's showing significant potential, and a lot of this is due to inflammation relief again, in things like Huntington's and Parkinson's, ALS, multiple sclerosis. Again, here we go. Because of the inflammation, it also protects neurons and improves some motor deficits in studies. So keep that in mind. We know already that other cannabinoids are neuroprotective, and for people who are considering brain health, taking cannabinoids specifically just to keep yourself in good brain health seems to be like a key for doing that. Okay, skin issues. This is what I also think is really fascinating. CBG, we've known for a long time that it can impact the skin specifically. We've known about MRSA. It affects, it's one of the best killers of MRSA, which is a skin infection that people often get in the hospital, and it's very resistant to antibiotics. Same thing with staph infections. But you can use it topically for a whole bunch of things. With rosacea, it specifically targets the inflammation and some of the vascular issues that are creating rosacea. So in that case, it's actually targeting like what's creating rosacea as opposed to just treating the symptoms. It can also be helpful with acne and psoriasis, wound healing, and then, MRSA again. This one I found interesting. We had a presentation, like I said, with some scientists from the company FK Plus, and they were talking to us about CBG. So it's interesting. Do you remember I told you that CBG is acting in a way that no other cannabinoid acts? And in one of those instances is here. It is the only cannabinoid that we know of so far that affects the alpha-2 adrenoceptor. And this is the same target for many stimulant medications that people who are diagnosed with ADHD take, because it gives you like a stimulant-like effect. So a lot of people will choose to use CBG in the daytime, whether or not you have ADHD, because it gives you that kind of get up and go effect. And same thing anecdotally with autism, people find cannabis, all sorts of cannabinoids very regularly, or regulating, sorry. It's something that I'd like to do our next science call on is cannabis and autism, because there's so much cool research happening there with seeing exactly like giving kids saliva tests and seeing exactly what sort of markers are being brought back into balance within 20 minutes of taking a cannabinoid. It's really cool. All right, so we already know that this is not intoxicating. Fantastic. In fact, none of the other cannabinoids besides THC are super intoxicating. CBN can be a little bit, but basically cannabis is a non-intoxicating plant. So for most people, there's nothing. People don't really come up with side effects for CBG. The things that they do say when there's being studied, like those people who were being studied for anxiety and stress, the side effects that they had were sleepiness and dry mouth and increased appetite and dry eyes. Increased appetite is interesting because some people are looking at this for help with chemo-induced, where you're not feeling hungry, like helping people gain their appetite during chemo, again, because it's not non-intoxicating and for legal issues sometimes. So potential side effects, almost nothing. Safety profile, well, we already know this, right? It's safe. They've given up to 200 milligrams of CBG to humans, and there's no toxicity, no impairment, no intoxication. So we don't have to take 200 milligrams, but if you did, you would be fine. So super safe way to try a cannabinoid for any of the conditions that we've talked about, because you don't have to worry about it. But your mileage may vary. So those scientists from FK Plus, Miyabi Shields and Riley Kirk, if you don't already know them and follow them, please go do. They explain the science of this plant really well, and they're building this website aggregator where you can go in and log your sessions with individual products and say, hey, this is how I felt before, during, and after. And lots of people have tried this, right? Lots of people have tried to build an aggregator for this type of information so that we can get kind of like citizen science on what's happening with cannabis products in the real world. I think these lovely ladies have the best shot at it right now, just because of all the data they've gathered and because of the minds behind it who are like interpreting the data. So this was CBG given by pre-roll to some participants. And the question was, what's your anxiety like? What's your anxiety and stress like? So this is where these various participants put their stress at the beginning, pre-taking this CBG inhaled product. Right here is at about 20 minutes later. So you can see, for example, this purple person, no effect for 20 minutes. And all of a sudden, from 20 to 40 minutes, this person's anxiety and stress spikes through the roof. This person's anxiety also went up, but this person's anxiety, I don't know where it went at the end. I can't find the end of this. Most of them, well, not most of them, but some of them are going down. So it's just, I don't know. It's so interesting for me to think about just this one cannabinoid for this one condition and how different it can affect different people. So, like everything with cannabis, your mileage is going to vary. So, how do we think about dosing then? Again, no FDA approved dosing guidelines, no Canadian approved dosing guidelines. The studies, when they're doing it on humans, are usually using around 20 to 50 milligrams of usually a tincture-based CBG application. But again, we don't have very many studies, so it's not a great data point. So we're going to start low and go slow, like we always do. With the case of CBG, you can start at about 5 milligrams once or twice, maybe even 3 times a day, and move it up at 5 milligrams every 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, whatever your kind of like natural pace is, and see when you start noticing relief. You might note that that's going to take a while. It does take a while sometimes for cannabinoids to really do their job. And you're also trying really hard not to like overshoot your maximum dose. If your minimum effective dose where you're going to feel great on CBG is 10 milligrams and you start at 20, that's a waste. So for most people, we encourage them to try and track. So start with a low dose, track it, see how you feel, move up kind of slowly until you feel relief. However, we don't think about the CBG in isolation. And for most of us who know a thing or two about this plant, you're going to be adding CBG maybe more intentionally into your already rich cannabinoid diet, because we know that the best way to get the full benefit for the least amount of product is to consume whole plant products that contain CBG and maybe a little bit of THC and maybe some, I don't know, CBN, like loads of different cannabinoids in there. This is just the list of cannabinoids that Cannabis has data on. So, like you have a rich diet of cannabinoids that you can integrate in there. So my point is, if you're going to try CBG, you don't have to just try it. Lots of people do, so they can get like a baseline, but you don't have to just try it. You could try it along with CBD or along with a little bit of THC, etc. Most people find that type of approach to dosing helps them feel better faster with less medicine. Okay, we're going to quickly look at CBGA. Remember, this is the cannabinoid that the plant originally grew with. This is the actual mother cannabinoid. This is cannabigerolic acid, so CBG acid. And what's happening here is there's an extra little part on the cannabis molecule that hasn't fallen off yet because we've heated it up. So we know almost nothing about CBGA. And the way that you get it is by harvesting a CBG rich plant and not heating it up, not decarbing it, not putting it into a vaporizer, using it raw. So like I said, do we know much? No, we really don't. We do know that it can help with epilepsy, although interestingly in higher doses, it can induce seizures. So caveat there. And one type of encephalopathy. So those are the only 2 things that we have clinical evidence for. Some other uses that Cannabis notes is that it's antibacterial. In fact, we should all be brushing our teeth with CBGA because it reduces bacteria that causes plaque better than the leading dental toothpaste. So look for that in a toothpaste near you. And it's also antiviral, again, in the case of SARS. But again, we don't know too much about it. What we do know, and what we know about all of the acidic cannabinoids so far, is that they are absorbed significantly better than their decarbed counterparts. So CBGA, you're going to take in way more of that actual molecule that interacts with your body if you're using it raw or unheated than you would if you were using CBG. Same thing with THCA, same thing with CBDA. So if you haven't checked out the acidic cannabinoids, they're cool for loads of reasons. Fun fact, did you know that CBG, like most cannabinoids actually, is not only found in cannabis? In fact, the most abundant source of CBG in the natural world that we know of so far is in this beautiful flower called the woolly umbrella, which is an herb native to South Africa. So I always think that's so cool when we find cannabinoids in other plants. Okay, where can we get it? We can get it at FK Plus. Like I said, this is these people from FK Plus who we've developed a partnership with at the Cannabis Institute reinvigorated my love of CBG by listening to them talk about some of the science that's behind it. They have a bunch of different gummy lines that have different amounts of cannabinoids in them, and some of them have CBG in it. Is this one of them? The relax one? I can't remember where I saw it. So yeah, if you are interested in a clean, excellent source of CBG along with other cannabinoids and nootropics, they have lots of cool things in here that are built to support these different profiles. So if you're looking to relax, everything that's in the relax gummies is going to be supporting that. CBG is definitely in the energy gummy, for example. Let me see if I can find where it says. No, I can't find where it says right now. Okay, so that is a great source. Healer, FK Plus and Healer only available in the United States. They can't ship internationally. Healer is another excellent source of CBG. And in this case, they have gummies, but they also have CBG in tincture form, in oil form. And for many of the Cannabis Institute people, for many of my clients, oils is actually the way to go. And this allows you to take 5 milligrams of CBG and 5 milligrams of CBD from a separate CBD dropper. So both of those places are excellent sources to start if you're looking for CBG. In the States, in Canada, we have varying degrees of access to it. My favorite product for almost everything actually is a company called MetaPharm. MetaPharm does have CBG tinctures in most provincial and territorial stores. That we don't have a straight CBG tincture, unfortunately, but this one is a really high quality one that I often recommend to clients. And sometimes we have a flower available called Sage and Sour. It's not available from what I can tell from my provincial store right now, but we have pretty limited access here. And that's the way it is right now. And if you're looking for flower and you're in the States, most people don't actually smoke CBG flower, from what I understand. I've never tried it except for in a joint with other, like it had a little bit of CBG, but it was mostly other things. So most people do use tinctures or topicals, but if you're looking for CBGA, or you want to make your own products, Horn Creek Hemp almost always has a strain that's CBG rich on their menu. And even if they don't have the one that's like really rich in CBG, yeah, this is 15%. No, it's not at the bottom. They have another section of their website that is strains that have much more CBD, for example, but a lot of CBG as well. So Horn Creek Hemp is a great place, again, to purchase in the States. All right. We are just about to jump into Q&A. I want to remind our students and grads to stick around because at the end, we're going to hang out and network together, hang out, chill. Guests, if you want to hang out with us, because we're awesome, you have to sign up to be a cannabis educator and coach with us so that you can stay next time. You can check us out at the Cannabis Institute, cannabisinstitute.co. And I'm going to turn this off because I am excited about this. Want to be able to see your beautiful faces. Who wants book club this winter, right? We have to have it back. Okay, that's what I thought. Even if none of you put your hand up, I was going to pretend that you all put your hand up and I was going to run Cannabis Book Club anyway. So I need your suggestions for books to run. We will probably do 4 sessions. We usually try to do October, November, December, and then January or February, so that we have some time to read the books. And also because eventually the weather does get nice again, I've been told. I really want to do Riley Kirk's newest book, but it's very expensive. So yeah, Reefer Wellness. Aaron's showing it to us right now. But yeah, it's expensive. So I don't know. Let me know if that's where you want to go. I saw Amanda was holding up the Cannabis book by Uva Blushing. We have some authors in the house. Is JJ still here? I can't tell. Maybe she is. Oh, yes. Yes, she is. We have some authors in the house. We could be reading JJ's newest book. We have some other Cannabis Institute authors. So we can talk about that after. Okay, I'm ready for Q&A. Hi, CJ.
So my experience with CBG, I actually use it from a company called Falcana. I think I said that correctly. They have just the CBG flower. And my boyfriend's trying to quit smoking. And so I've been rolling him joints with tobacco and half CBG, and he absolutely loves it. He can't even tell he's not smoking a full cigarette. So I'm going to slowly start transitioning that, but he's noticed a huge difference with that.
That's super cool. I also suggest putting some CBD in there because we know CBD has some very anti-addictive properties. And so lots of people are able to make the wean off of addictive substances easier without that drug-seeking behavior that CBD tends to kind of help with. So that's awesome, CJ. I'm so excited to hear that and excited for your husband. It's wonderful.
I actually microdosed for a month. I did a little microdosing, and I actually had THC and CBD, and it made the voices in my head stop. I was actually able to have a clear conversation, and it wasn't all jumbled. Like the ADHD that I don't actually have was going crazy, and it just completely mellowed me out. I was able to focus when I had to focus. The anxiety levels went straight down. I had no high from it at all. It was such a nice relax. I was so happy.
Did you say THC and CBD or G?
CBG
cool.
and THC.
Okay. Yeah. No high from it, eh?
None.
And do you normally get high from THC products?
I do. I have a really low tolerance.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and with CBG, the one day I out of 1 out of 10, I had a 1. I was like, oh, I can feel it. Then the next day it was gone, and all I felt was just mellow. Just straight down, absolutely chill and mellow. The voices were just so nice and quiet. I could actually sit and pay attention to what I was doing. Everyone should try it.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. Thank you.
Fantastic.
All right, Elizabeth. Hi.
Hello. I love CBG. I've been talking about it on the Cannabis Institute, it feels like, since I first enrolled back in 2022. So absolutely, my personal experience is for anxiety. If you have any clients or you know yourself, any family members or friends who have been trying to turn to THC or CBD specifically to help with anxiety, I can speak from personal experience and say that for some of us, I really feel CBG is going to work much better than CBD does, or even small amounts of THC. That was really the game changer for me in my anxiety.
Hi, Ben.
Hi.
Hi.
You mentioned in the beginning that the CBG is really high before the flower matures. Wouldn't that be the easiest way to get CBG? So why bother with the strains that keep it in the end?
Because what you're going to be doing is harvesting a really immature plant that has very small buds and hoping that you've caught it before it's starting to activate those synthase, the THCA synthase enzymes. So first, and I'm sure that you could probably look it up, CBG begins to turn to THCA at 6 weeks. I'm sure you could look that up, but you'd still be taking a guess. And you'd be putting a lot of time and effort into a very small harvest. So for most people, choosing a type of cannabis chemovar that has been bred for the cannabinoid that they're looking for is a far more efficient way to get it. Does that help?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was great having you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you.